All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't you go anywhere. You're about to meet a fierce competitor and future Hall of Famer. This guy has been in some of the most key positions in big real estate companies that you're going to see here in just a minute. From Charlotte, North Carolina, coming up, Dave Collins right here on Cliff's Notes. Real estate agents, are you struggling with the day-to-day grind, dialing for dollars, putting in hours of floor time with little to show for it? Are you looking for tips, tricks, and tactics to accelerate your career as an agent that will have you closing more homes, working with more clients, and earning more money than ever before? Hi, my name's Cliff Freeman, and I've spent the past 2 decades of my real estate career running one of the top brokerages in DFW and personally coaching over 1,000 high-performing real estate professionals across North America. I created this podcast to share the strategies and tactics you need to explode your real estate business. I guarantee it. I guarantee it, and I guarantee you somebody left some paraphernalia from the birthday party that was here in the studio before we got here. It must have been somebody's 100th birthday, Travis. Did you leave this in here?
I did not. I think it's actually you guys' 100th episode, if I'm not mistaken.
It is?
I think so. I think so.
What?
What? That's another digit.
Yes, indeed. Getting a little long in the podcast beard.
We're going to have a comma pretty soon. Dang, can you believe that?
That's wild.
100 trips around the studio here. Isn't that crazy?
I like it.
We've come a long way.
That's unbelievable. We have come a long way. We certainly have.
You guys don't look a day over 50 episodes. I promise you. Don't look a day over 50 episodes.
Yeah, I'm telling you what. You know what, though? It's wild that Trelvis has been with us on every one of those episodes. Just about.
Yeah.
I think maybe you missed maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah.
But you've been with us the whole way, man.
Yes, indeed.
Crazy to think.
It's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah. Yeah. You haven't aged a bit either, my friend.
I feel it, though.
You feel it.
I feel it.
Working with this group, I can imagine. All right. So we won't talk about the Cowboys game this Thursday. We're going to go ahead and get right into – oh, wait a minute. That is today. This is Thursday. Predictions. I predict it's going to rain Saturday night.
I hope not.
I have no idea about the Cowboy game. Everybody's got COVID. They're all sick.
Yeah, McCarthy won't be there.
McCarthy's not going to be there.
Yep, Amari Cooper's out.
Not. Coop's not out. Yeah. Anybody else? Travis? Here we go down a rabbit hole.
No, I think that's it. I think everybody else is playing.
Everybody else is
suiting
playing.
up.
Okay. I
Yes,
hope they're feeling it, man. This is their turn. They actually they're what do you call that clock? Whenever your clock, like your sleeping clock, they're caught up now because they've been playing on just 2 Thursday games, right?
Right.
2 Thursday games.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Speaking of athletic, competitor, and a Hall of Famer, let's bring in Dave Collins. There he is in Charlotte, North Carolina. Dave, welcome to Cliff's Notes, man. It's great to see you, my friend.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be joining you, and pretty honored that I get to be number 100. So,
well, that's
hopefully the 100th podcast won't be the end of it, and I will make sure you drop some nuggets.
Well, this is going to be a good one. You and I and C3 were having a bit of a conversation before the show, and if you're in the audience watching this right now, make sure you got a clean sheet of paper, 8.5 by 14, and a full pen, because you're going to have some writer downers today. You know, we were talking about sports, and just coincidentally, Dave, you have a little background in sports yourself. You played a little college hockey, I understand.
I did. I wasn't very good, but I played. And just growing up as an athlete, I grew up playing baseball, and frankly, my mentality, I was a way better baseball player than I ever was going to be a hockey player, but they didn't let you check people when you played baseball. And so I decided I was going to go and be a defenseman, and probably middle schoolish, and kind of grew from there and went on to playing a little bit in college, and had some fun with it. Got one of the kind of cool stories, aging myself quite a bit, but we got to play. We were nationally ranked. I was playing at a JUCO, and we were a nationally ranked team at that time. And the national tournament was at the Olympic rink in Lake Placid, basically 2 years after the U.S. Olympic team won gold there. So that was kind of a cool moment to be out there and play in that same arena.
Yeah, man, I remember watching that on TV. Gosh, that was wild, just absolutely crazy stuff. We come across quite a few people on the show, successful, driven people who succeeded at a high level in sports. What did you take away from your experience in sports that you were able, the skill set that you were able to transfer into business?
I think the biggest one, particularly when you're, well, there's a couple really, and I have 4 kids. 3 of them ended up being Division I athletes, so I kind of watched them go through it, even go to a much higher level than I did. But really, a couple key things. One, work ethic. You can't succeed without an absolutely driven work ethic and commitment to your time blocking and commitment to what you need to do to be successful. But I think even more importantly, especially when you're talking about a team sport, is you're not succeeding without everybody else. You need the help of others. You need to be able to gel as a team, as a group, and I think that's an important part of what we're trying to do here in the real estate world with helping everybody and coaching. And it's, for me, at a very young age, you start to learn that as an individual, you can only go so far. As a team, you can go a lot further.
Well, it's interesting. I think that if you probably compared the Stanley Cup champions with the runner-up, there's probably not a whole lot of difference there. What is it that it takes to be the one that gets the trophy?
In my mind, expecting it. It's a mental game at that point. Everybody's good, right? You guys were talking a little bit about the Cowboys and the NFL, and how many times have the Jets beaten somebody this year that they weren't supposed to beat, or that it just goes on and on. The talent physically is there. The difference is the mental game, and that difference when you're in a 7-game series or you're in the playoffs for the next game in the NFL is expecting to win, not ever thinking to yourself that, well, we're losing. And I think you see it a ton in the NFL with the last minute, these great quarterbacks, Dak and Brady and everyone else. They just drive down the field and they get it done. They don't care what the score is at that point. They're expecting to win. And that's a mental mindset that you have to have.
Yeah. Your resume is very impressive, Dave. And, when you were COO of ERA, I know, and today you continue to be around a lot of highly successful, top-performing realtors. What's different about their mindset? Is there something that separates them from the herd?
I think the same thing, but when you start to think about the real estate industry, and I've been doing this 35 years now, so almost as long as your number back there. I got a third of your 100 going on, and it doesn't really change all that much, right? You see the fluctuations in the numbers of people getting into the business. You see people get into business because they think it's easy. They don't actually know the math. They don't actually get into all the things that are needed, and you get all the 5 reasons that why most realtors fail after 5 years, and it's it's lack of funds, it's lack of work ethic, it's not understanding the marketing side, it's not having a business plan. Like, what's the plan? People get in it and they chase the next deal as opposed to managing their business. And so, I think that educating yourself, let's be honest, the barrier to entry into this business is not that high, right? You can get into it with a high school GED, which is not saying anything, and then a 90-hour class and a test, and now boom, you're a realtor. It's the ones who go from there to educate themselves on the best way to run their business, the best way to be a consultant to their customers, that are going to win, right? And I talk a lot about the difference in the realtor mentality between hunter and farmer, right? So you have those out there in the business that are the great hunters. They're going to go out, they're going to prospect, they're going to find their business, and they're going to close it. And then there's natural personality of the farmer. Once they have the business, they can nurture it, grow it, and have it blossom. Very few people are both, right? And when you find that, those guys and gals typically shoot through the top.
What you've really kind of defined here are characteristics of both an entrepreneur and then a manager. You got to manage the business, and most entrepreneurs are not great managers. They just, and they're not willing to delegate. But if you're going to run a team, you certainly have to learn that skill, or your team's not going to be successful. We see about, what is it, about a 30% turnover or attrition rate per year. Is that reasonable, Dave, I think, in our business? I mean, I've heard it said that 80% of the commissions that are going to be earned in 5 years are going to be earned by people who don't even have a real estate license yet. And so there's always opportunities for new people to come into the business, and, you know, those that do really well. I mean, I think if you read the NAR statistics, isn't the average age like 54? 56?
Yeah, which is down slightly. A few years ago it was at 57, 56. Now, you know, down slightly, but that's a pretty big move given, you know, a couple years in average with the numbers. I've been, and as you were talking, I was kind of thinking about this. I've been pleasantly surprised at the number of younger people, millennials, Gen Z, is starting to get into the business and building it as a career. It's been pretty impressive lately. It's the demographics of the industry, I think, are changing.
I got to tell you, and I know you're an expert on national trends and so forth, and what's going on kind of on a macro scale. When we went to EXPCon in Vegas just a couple of short weeks ago, it was remarkable to see the young people there. And a good example, my son is 27, my daughter's 22. I would have never really considered starting out a career in real estate. Most people gravitate there after they've got their life experiences and kind of figured some things out, but very few people, frankly, just have the skill set and the maturity to go out and work with people that have bought 4 times as many houses, you know, make a ton more money. I mean, somebody right out of high school, I know kids who got started and learned how to get on the phone and close, and before you know it, you know, they went from 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds. I mean, it was, you know, it was really quite impressive. And that's the beautiful thing about our business is it really, you know, people from all walks of life can come into this business and be successful. But I think for most people, what's missing could be that hunger. Is there any way, do you think, how do you teach real estate agents to be hungry?
Wow. I've always been a believer that you really can't teach that. I believe that you either are or you aren't. And, you know, seeing the changing demographic of the people coming into the business, right? I think that there is a different personality style of the younger generations coming out today than say when I was growing up, right? And I'm almost 60 years old. I can't believe that, but you know, there was a different mindset. There was a different parental guidance, everything else. And, you know, being hungry to me can only really be driven when you at some point in your life didn't have anything, right? There was some point where you had to give it all, or you were going to be hungry, right? But somebody who's, you know, grown up and never had to bust their butt to eat, it's hard to teach that, right? So I guess the best way, in my opinion, would somehow create fear of loss. I think 2008 and 9 helped create fear of loss for a lot of realtors because it actually happened. And, you know, my kids, you know, I've been in this business a long time. 2008, 9, 10 were not good for me. And, you know, my kids were living, you know, a pretty high life. And then they saw a really low life. And I think that helped drive them. And now they've seen something that, you know, they now know what it looks. It's not always there. And so I think only life experience teaches you that, frankly.
Yeah, I think we're on to something here. I really do, because C3 and I talk all the time. We have superstars, right, on here. And what's the common thread?
They're always overcoming adversity, something in their life that they've had to overcome that's propelled them into success.
I mean, something traumatic. I mean, rock bottom,
Yep.
right? and they've gone to a place in life that they don't ever want to return to, and they'll do anything not to go there again, right? It's kind of like when you're underwater, how bad do you want to breathe, right? That you're going to fight your way back up to the top. And I think, Dave, that, we used to try to come up with all these analytical ways to, to do mind mapping and figure out who's got the right behavior, this and that and the other thing. And I finally came up with this notion of, you know what, the big why is important, the disc is important, but give me somebody that's got a big bill. And what I mean by that is somebody who is in a position where other people depend on them, to survive, and they absolutely are going to do anything they have to do to succeed. They burn the boats. There is no plan B. Right. Those are the people that I want to be in the trenches with, and yep. I will take that. John Wooten was, he's the famous basketball coach, would always take the kid with the heart over the kid with the natural ability, because he can teach them how to play basketball. But you can't yep. teach heart, right? And just like you said, you hit it on the nail on the head. You can't teach hunger. That is what really has to come from life experience, which I think is why the average real estate agent is 54 years old even today. But it is good. It is good. So, what kind of you were talking about trends? You see demographic trends in the real estate business. Tell us a little bit about you're a thought leader in this business. Give us your crystal ball and kind of paint the future for us. So through Dave Collins' eyes here.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Obviously it's a crystal ball, and we don't know what socioeconomic trends are going to change this, et cetera, et cetera. Clearly, my crystal ball in 2008 must have had a big crack in it, because I didn't see it coming. And so, my opinion now, though, right? Because everybody's out there in the media, and this is where I talk a lot about, don't get caught up in the headlines. The headlines are great. They're clickbait. They're meant to get you to read, right, somebody's opinion. And you're hearing it now that the market's overheated. Sellers or buyers are like, is it too late? Do I not buy now? Et cetera, et cetera. And the fact of the matter is, this is not a financial crisis-driven market right now. I mean, that market back then in 05, 06 was all driven by easy money. It's all been regulated now. So we were giving people money that should have never gotten money, and putting them in adjustable rates that they were never going to afford the new rate. Except, that's water under the bridge. We've seen major increases in pricing, affordability. Just reading an article, affordability is at kind of the peak of where it was back in 06. But the chief economist of First American just came out and said, but their home buying power index is still below that peak, which means he doesn't believe that the prices of homes have reached where they even should be in most markets, right? So it's still a great market. And I think the one primary driver of that is, we all know inventory has not been good. It's not been good for years. Driven by builders not, jumping out of the market way back when, not building for 3 or 4 years when they were building, million plus homes a year. So you've created a major supply issue. They're finally starting to get back to that pace. I think 3.7% growth in new construction is projected for next year. But what we didn't have back then was 140 million millennials and Gen Z reaching their prime home buying years. So you got 140 million people that are forming households at one of the greatest rates in history. Everyone thinks they're living in their parents' basement, right? All the millennials are living in their parents' basement. Well, out of the last 6 years, the millennial generation has made up between 32 and 37% of every home sale transaction that has occurred in this country, right? It's the biggest cohort of people buying homes in this country for the last 6 years straight by a long shot. But let's do some quick math, right? So let's call it 35%, right? Now there's 140 million of them. We've got Roughly on average, we'll call it 5.2, 5.3. We'll call it 5 million existing home sales over the course of the last year. We're on pace for 6.3 this year, which is amazing, given the inventory. But if you just take 35% of 5 million, it's 1.8. You run that over 6 years or so, and you're literally talking out of the 140 million people that are in that generation. 8 million of them, 11 million of them have bought. Hell, if it's 15 million of them, there's still 130 to go, right? And so, these people are going to need places to live. And I think that's going to drive our market for a long time. That's my crystal ball as it relates. Now, add to that 2018 or so, the term came out about the silver tsunami. And that's essentially, or it came out earlier than that with regard to baby boomers turning 60, like 2006. But starting in 2018, the financial projections suggest that there's going to be a 25 trillion, that's with a T, $25 trillion transfer of wealth from those baby boomers down. So now you've got rich $140 million millennials. Let's get them in houses.
Well, we'll see what happens with that transfer of wealth, with the administration wanting 100% tax on inheritance. I hope you're right. I hope that money gets in our pockets, not in the government's. But you were talking about home price affordability, Dave, and I think that, yes, if you look at home price affordability right now, it's not up to where it was. But, all we need is a 1% increase in rates to reduce purchasing power by about 10%. And, if you look at the yield curve right now, it's starting to flatten. And some people, including myself, are starting to believe that the puppets at the Fed have blown their chance to give this economy a soft landing, and what they're potentially going to do is drive it into a recession, and we'll keep an eye on the yield curve to see that. If that were to happen and rates were to go up, and we have rampant inflation and a recession going on at the same time, I just don't know. I mean, I haven't seen wages keep up with inflation. People have got their heads in the sand when it comes to inflation right now, and jobs are, even though minimum wage is up to $15, they're not the home buyers. Right. The home buyers aren't seeing that kind of increase. So I'm a little kind of anxious about what's going to be happening here. There's a lot, like you said, your crystal ball is only as good as your crystal ball, which we know that those are they're not clear, and we have to kind of there's so many assumptions that we make in order to get to these conclusions. But I agree that overall real estate's not going away. It's not real estate doesn't go to zero. Stocks can go to zero. Real estate doesn't go to zero, which is a great thing. So what do you see in terms of, you hear about these hedge funds and big companies coming in and making deals with the builders to buy complete subdivisions and turning those into rental properties. I mean, I've heard a lot of these millennials are not interested in owning real estate. They want the mobility and the ability to be able to move around the country and rent properties. What do you say to people that have that sort of idea?
Yeah, I think again, it goes back to education, right? I'll use a personal story, because that's the closest I can get to reality, right? And my 4 kids, who are all graduated, all working, doing their stuff now, right? When they came back from college, I said, "Look, you need to live with me." And they're like, "Wait, well, I'm just going to go and rent." And so this exact point that you're mentioning, Cliff, I'm just going to go rent, because what if I want to get a job somewhere else and I want to move and so on? I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, you move back home and you pay me rent," which is always met with, "Wait, what? Wait, why would I do that?"
You got to live at home for free. Yeah.
I'm a free man.
Right. Well, and so I said to him, I said, "Look, you pay me rent, right? And guess what? If something happens, something unforeseen happens, you are, your car breaks down, whatever, I don't know what it is, and you miss a rent payment, I'm not going to kick you out. They're going to kick you out, and then I'm not going to let you back in. So now what? And then I reminded them that they had to take their cell phone bill, their gas, their car insurance, everything with them. And I literally got a look like, wait, what? Like I said, you see my dad paying that for me right now? Like that stuff doesn't stay with me for the rest of your life. So long story short, I know it's too late for that part, but what I tried to teach them, something that I was never taught, I had to learn on my own, was that after the end of 2 years, I said, okay, now here's all your rent money back. Now go buy a house. Don't go rent. But what if I want to move? If you do this right, you'll just move and you'll keep it and it'll become an income producing property for you. And you'll start to build a portfolio of the greatest wealth building asset in this world. And so they've all done that. And in fact, my daughter, who's the youngest, bought a condo about a year and a half ago when she got out of school. And I said, look, here's the deal. You go buy a 2-bedroom condo. Well, what do I need 2 bedrooms for? I said, because then you go get a roommate and then you charge them rent. And then so on. So she does that, and her mortgage is X, roommate pays her Y, she pays the delta. And so she's saving a bunch of money. I said, and when you're ready to buy your next thing, you just rent that 2nd bedroom to somebody else and you move on. And so they're all getting that. And so that's a long-winded way of your question is owning property doesn't prevent you from moving, right? It doesn't prevent you from turning it into an asset of wealth, which we all know real estate is the best way to do that over hundreds of years. Own the land. They're not making any more dirt. It doesn't happen. And so, rent, great, but perfect. Rent all the properties that I own in Charlotte, and I'll make money.
Yeah. It's funny because can I use you as an example?
I've been used
I
before.
promise I won't throw you under the bus here, but Mr. Freeman bought a house, and he's a young millennial. His biggest complaint is he didn't know that he had to do maintenance on the house because he's always had a landlord or somebody else to call to fix stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so he feels like that's kind of a penalty that he's having to pay for home ownership. Forget the fact that he's got this huge pile of equity that he's sitting on now, and he just can't touch it. But anyway, it is. We all know that in this country, 90% of wealth creation for most individuals involves some ownership of real estate. So I think they'll come around certainly at some point. Now, I'm going to shift gears here and ask you a question because you joined a real estate company that does not believe in owning real estate. Now, why in the heck did you do that there, Mr. Collins?
Well, they don't believe in owning real estate for the right reasons. Think about it. I wouldn't want to be in the commercial real estate space in many markets right now. The traditional brokerage who's had the bricks and mortar, effectively, that's a bottom line, suck on your profitability. And where does that have to come from? That has to come from, you don't make up expenses by doing more deals. You make it up by getting a different split, right? And so, what I loved, and look, I've worked in traditional independent franchises. I've worked in them all. And, when I met with Rich Tomasini here in Charlotte and literally talked about the model, I said to him, it was my job to know the competitors, right? My job to know who the competitors were when I was in my role. But what I didn't do, and kind of shame on me at that time, was know or study the depth of the EXP model, right? And how it went from, the perception when it was small, when it was 5,000 agents or 3,000 agents, or when you guys joined, 2,500 or whatever that number was, the perception of this virtual, all the competitors, I'm sure you've heard this. We're talking about, you got to go to this virtual world and, who's going to do that and blah, blah, blah. Well, the smart people went in there and checked it out, because once I did that and I realized it was no different than what you and the three of us are doing right now. And by the way, my little avatar looks better than I do anyway. So that's he survived COVID better than I did. Um, so that's the upside. But access to the broker in there was a lot easier than driving to an office and hoping that they were there. Like so on, like an understanding the details and understanding how in this model you go from uh, being transactional and hoping to hit whatever number and running on the treadmill to expenses that normally would be with your traditional brokerage being shifted back to the agent in terms of rev share and stock and everything else. I mean, it's once I fully understood it, I'm like, okay, I'm in. Right?
Took you a while. This is not uncommon. I have some good friends of mine who took a couple of years to really look under the hood and do the due diligence. You know, I love the way Gene Frederick puts it. For many people, it's like walking into the Ford dealership, looking at the GT on the showroom floor, and then bringing up with the Ford salesman, hey, I'm also looking at a Tesla. What do you know about Tesla? And the Ford dealer guy goes immediately, oh, they catch on fire in China, and you know they're running people over with their automatic driving, and the carbon footprint of the battery, you know, is bigger than the lifetime gas usage of this Ford. So the point is that I guess, you know, we have a saying around here that the most expensive thing that a person can own is what?
A closed mindset.
A closed mind, right? Not that you were closed-minded, Dave, but let's face it. You spent a lot of years, you know, very successful years in the franchise model, and that's, you know, for a lot of people, that's really the only model that they know that real estate can exist in. What kind of advice, Dave, would you give to people who are just kind of stuck where they are and not really willing to put the effort in, you know, to move because they're just happy where they are? What are they missing? What can you suggest to them? What's a good bit of advice that you can give somebody to help them, you know, be more open-minded?
Well, I think I would start with a question as to what their goals were, right? Um, you know, look, this industry, there's 1.55 million members of NAR right now, and you know anybody that studies it knows that there's what almost half every year won't do any deals, right? So, you know, I think it really depends on that person's triggers, and but let's use above average to top producers as an example, right? And I loved your post on Facebook today with the insert from the profile of buyers and sellers that NAR puts out. And if anybody listening to this isn't spending time at realtor.org and looking at the statistics, looking at the reports, that you're not doing yourself a very good service. But so spend some time there. But you know, essentially what it said is 1% of the customers, the consumers, are going to pick you because of the brand you're with, right? They're going to pick you because of who you are. And so I was talking to somebody the other day he's with an independent, and he'll do 30 somewhere in the 25-30 million dollar range uh, in the luxury space. And one of his concerns, right, isn't about anything other than you know the luxury perception. And so I suggested to him, I said, well, you've been doing this for how long? You know, a number of years. Your customers trust and like you and they do business with you, yes. They already know you're partaking in the luxury space, yes. Okay, great. So why don't you just tell them you're going out to create your own luxury brand, brokered by EXP? And it was like the light bulb went on for him. I said, why don't you be the brand? Go be the luxury brand. Go be, you know, whatever you want to call it, and broker it without all the liability and everything that comes with owning your. Because he was talking about going to start his own brokerage. I was like, oh, good luck with that, buddy. Not a lot of margin in that. Yeah, you know, you want to do production to keep your business open. That's up to you. But this is probably a better way to go. So, you know, I don't know if that answered the question about an open mind. Somebody said to me, or I heard the other day, I can't remember who it is. I'd give them credit for it because it's not mine. But a good business person always looks at all their options.
Yeah.
Every
And
brand
so
has
if
one.
you are looking at, in running a business, have you evaluated your best options for you?
Right, right. That's brilliant. I sometimes you'll hear me describe EXP for a luxury agent as, you're that S550 cruising 150 down the Autobahn, and on the back are those three letters that say AMG. So your brand is the Mercedes, and that little back brand on the back, that's the equivalent of EXP being brokered or powered by EXP, right? Because that's the most technologically advanced, the fastest, has the best equipment for you to get down the road. And so I love the way you helped open, and that's what you do is you help open that person's mind to look at the world a little differently. They don't know that 1 out of 100 sellers picked you because of I said in the post, the red balloon or the yellow jacket that you're wearing, and it's just we get brainwashed because the advertising that we see, which is not directed to the consumers, it's directed at agents, Sotheby's, Coldwell Banker, Century 21, all of us, EXP included, are not B2C. We're B2B. Zillow is a consumer-facing entity. We are there to attract and serve agents because agents are our customers who ultimately serve the people who are buying and selling houses. So that's what's really interesting is we rely, again, on misinformation, right? It's kind of like social media. We rely on misinformation to make those kind of business decisions, Dave, like you pointed out, that are so important. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing currently. How are you serving the real estate community with what you're doing here at EXP?
Well, it's interesting because I created a company with a partner, a couple partners, and so we're doing a few different verticals in the real estate space with the company, EXP being one of those. When I left my previous role, I had got a carve out to my non-compete to go into the mortgage business with my son, who's a mortgage LO, and really kind of helped him grow his business from where it was to exponentially higher now. He's pretty happy about that. Just helping him with business planning and everything else. So still doing a little bit of that and helping him and driving some MSA work for that. We have our investment arm. We got some multifamily, single family, that kind of thing. We're also invested in a technology that for the real estate community that in my mind solves the number one problem that most agents have. And that's marketing to their sphere, staying in touch with their sphere, using NAR numbers again. 93% of your past customers say they'll use you again, but only 13% will actually do it because you're not staying in touch with them, right?
Yeah.
And so, this technology is for the consumer, but it's all branded for the agent to keep them in front of. So that's a piece of it. So, as I try to pull all those things together and build out kind of a team on a national basis and coach and help with that, that's really where let's be honest. Let's put all the cards on the table. I've been in the real estate industry for 35 years, and I've never bought or sold a house that wasn't mine. I've never been in the role you guys do, right? I've never done the transactional stuff, but I'm a student of it, right? And it's pretty easy to figure out, right? And it's pretty easy. I've helped agents grow. I've helped companies grow. I've helped with M&A. I've done all that stuff, right? Without actually ever selling a house. I've acted as the seller in the relocation world. So it's kind of an interesting way I've navigated this industry without, building the trust of people like you guys and other agents without actually having done what they do on a daily basis, right?
Well, you have a deep experience. You mentioned to us earlier that you worked with Cardis back in the early days, and so you said 30 some odd years. That's a lot of time in this industry, and your depth of knowledge, like I said, definitely Hall of Fame, material here, and it's kind of interesting that you brought up that you've never, helped somebody buy or sell a home, but that's just the enormity of this industry. It is so big that there's so many things, so many people that are involved in a transaction. There's so much work to be done. Tell me, Dave, tell us a little bit here, just in as we're about to run out of time here, but I'm curious to know what's your BHAG, what's your big, hairy, audacious goal for the next year or two?
It's funny. We have our company, our little partnership company, business planning session to define what that is for the next year, combining all four of those verticals, right? Last year's was a little foggy because we were just structuring the company. But I'm a big believer. I love BHAG. I think that, Glenn threw out the BHAG at EXPCon, right? The 500,000 in 5 years. Yeah. That's a BHAG, right? It's going to be interesting to see how that transitions. But I'm a big believer and a student of this book. So anybody who hasn't seen this, go get it.
Yep.
And it redefines BHAG into a wildly important goal, right? WIG, and then your lead measures and the things that help you be successful. So we're in the middle of defining our wildly important goal and how we're going to get there, and it's going to be a combination of product development, product ownership, where we're going with this tech product, et cetera, et cetera. So bullet point answer to your number is probably our WIG is going to be somewhere in the driving X number of millions of dollars in revenue over the course of the next 12 months. And
right on.
BHAG, and Glenn did it, right? A BHAG, a WIG, or whatever is always X to Y by when. And he said 68,000 agents to 500,000 agents by 5 years from now. X to Y by when. Very important thing in business planning.
Right. Now you're involved. How many of you have 3 sons? Is that, do you have any daughters or other sons?
3 sons and 1 daughter. Yep.
Okay. And how many of them are directly involved in your real estate business?
Other than my mortgage LO son, none. My oldest is, which is interesting because you talk a little bit about disc profiling, and the only one of my 4 kids I could even come close to working with is the second son, and that's the one we work together with. The other 3 are like, get out of here. But oldest is a financial planner, middle one's an LO, third one works in the baseball industry, and my daughter is actually in HR. So.
Well, they were all D1 or not. Sorry, 3 out of the 4 were D1 recruits, I guess, or did they go on to play D1 sports in college?
Yeah, they played. My oldest played D1 baseball in the Big South with a small school called Gardner Webb, and my third son originally signed at UVA. He was a draftable kid. He's outside my office listening, so he's probably like, "Shut up," but. He's 6'4", throws at 94. He's a draftable kid out of high school, got hurt, went on to play at the University of Richmond. And then my daughter was all-around gymnast at the University of Pittsburgh.
Wow, that's fantastic. So it does run in the family then.
For sure.
Yeah, no question about it. Well, that's awesome. Well, Dave, is there anything that we didn't get a chance to ask you yet that you wanted to just to share with our audience here?
I think that the takeaways, right? And I think we talked about them in general, but, as the audience is listening, take the time to, time block, whether it's business planning or whatever. I think too many people in our industry spend so much time chasing the next deal or chasing the next lead that they aren't taking the time out, to spend some time with themselves and reflect and do all those things, but also to educate themselves beyond where all their competition is so that they can be a better realtor to their customer than anybody else. Number 2, mind your sphere. Like literally, if the average realtor in this country is only doing, call it 7 deals a year, the average sphere for every broker every agent's about 400 people. 9.7% of them will buy or sell every year. You're missing 30 deals. Now, I know there's agents and there's people listening to this that are doing hundreds of deals a year, 100 a month, whatever. But for those of you that are at that, I want to grow my business. I'm doing 7 a year. I'm doing 10 a year, right? Stop chasing leads and figure out, don't be a secret agent. Tell people in your sphere you're in the business and find a way to stay in touch with them, right? I do a quick thing and I'll end with this. But I was on stage in front of, I call it 2,500 agents or so. And I said, okay, everybody raise your hand. If anybody, if you've ever had a friend, a family member, a next door neighbor, or someone you drove around your car for 5 to 6 months, buy or sell from somebody other than you. And of course, most of them raised their hand. And I said, for those of you that didn't raise your hand, you're new to the business, so welcome. We're glad you're here. Or you're lying, or you just don't know, right? Because we've all had it where you find like, wait, did you not? It's like I found my oldest son way back when, looking for houses online. And I said, what are you doing? He said, I've been looking for I've been looking for like 6 months. I said, did you forget what I do? Like, he goes, I don't know what to do next. I think he was trying to put the house in the cart, right? And so I said, like, okay, let's walk through this, but remind people what you do every day.
That's right. Yeah. Santa Claus has to do that. I'm telling you. So, Dave,
they start in October.
Why do you think we start playing Christmas music? Now right after Halloween. So, Dave, one of your companies though you built specifically to help agents do just that, which is stay in touch with their past clients, right?
Yeah, we partner. Yeah, it's I'm actually shameless plug. I'm wearing the shirt. It's called Your Home Hub. We're launching in January, and essentially it's a hub for the consumer to manage. C3, you'd love this for your house, right? Because you can store all your documents there. You've got move-in concierge for utilities, all that. Connection to 300,000 contractors on the back end. I've got my warranties, my repair bills. I've got everything stored. I've got blog posts and all kinds of reminders about what I should be doing to maintain my home. I've got, imagine when I go to sell the house, oh, here's all the receipts for the new roof and the warranties on all my appliances, all stored in the cloud right here for you. And all along, this is being provided to you by your agent. So every time the consumer's engaging with this, when they get their AVM on their new price of their house or their blog post, every single time, guess whose face they're going to see? It's going to be brought to you by, Cliff Freeman, whoever, right?
I love it.
And,
I love it.
It remind them that you're in the business, every day while they're managing their house, and it's free to the consumer. Right? That's awesome. It's actually free to the agent at the basic level.
Dave, where would somebody go to find out more information about this?
They can call me to find out about it. I can guide them in the right direction. They can email me, Dave@uniquerealtyservices.com. I'm happy to talk to anybody. Again, we're launching kind of in January with the first products and taking it from there. So I'd love to talk more about it to anybody.
Are you willing to put your phone number out on the internet?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's have it.
Let's have it. 704-264-4523. I'm not as cool as Rich, who has a 833 eXp Realty, but I will tell you, I'm one of those guys that doesn't answer my phone if I don't recognize the number, but I do call you back immediately if you leave a message.
Perfect. How about a text? Is that all right too?
Text is even better.
Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. I think that this is something that some of you in the audience ought to really pray about and think about, is maybe getting a hold of Dave and see if he can help you really nurture and grow that Sphere business, because there are no fees associated. You don't have to pay Zillow 35%. You don't have to pay Cartus 42%, whatever the number is now. This is low-hanging fruit, folks, that Dave is going to help you cultivate. Well, Dave Collins, it has been a real pleasure to finally get you on the show, and I was so excited to talk with you when you were contemplating coming over to eXp. I thought, wow, what an incredible industry, thought leader and just leader this young man is. And I say young, I won't make fun of your youth and inexperience, because I'm 5 years older than you are. But I got to tell you, it was just such a thrill to when you decided to pull the trigger and join us in this movement, and it's great to see you again here in person, and hopefully we're going to bump into each other before the next shareholders coming up in Orlando. But I want to wish you guys the best. Tell Rich we said hello when you bump into him, and call on us anytime we can be of service to you, because I know you're a servant leader, and and have a heart of service, and that's just what you're all about. So thank you again. Appreciate you so much, and we'll do a checkup from the neck up here and see how your company's doing after you get it launched in January, okay?
Sounds great, and thank you for having me. It was a real pleasure. Thank you for the help and guidance, Cliff, that you gave me when I was talking about this. You know, it's just crystal clear that the people in this company want to help everyone be successful, and so that was clear in my reach out to you back several months ago, and very much appreciated. So thanks.
Absolutely, Dave. Well, thank you again for being on the show. Appreciate it. This is number 100. Now, something happened. Did you notice what happened there?
I was trying to get Travis to go to Dave so I could fix him, but I guess he must be asleep at the wheel today.
This is like 010. Did we have? Is that a new zip code back there? But anyway, if you guys just joined in and you wondered what the heck's going on with these balloons behind me and C3, this is our 100th episode. Thank you, Travis. You are amazing, as always, for getting this. I can't believe 100 episodes. Can you? I mean, this is like Johnny Carson type stuff, you know?
This is some cool stuff.
You know who Johnny Carson is?
Is he some
You have
old
no idea, do
radio
you?
host or
Oh
something?
my God. Okay. All right. I'm
You're
showing
really
my
dating
age.
yourself,
I'm
yes.
showing my age here again.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's pray for the Cowboys here real quick. Father God, Lord Jesus, we just hope that they show up tonight. Travis, thank you very much, and we're going to be back next week, right?
We
Yep, 'cause-
are Gogo Bitek or
Bethke, yeah, it's going to be on. If you haven't met Gogo, my gosh, you're really in for a treat. She'll be on with us next week live on Cliff's Notes. Cliff's Notes every Thursday at 1 o'clock Central for the tips, tricks, and tactics to explode your business. I guarantee it.